Hello, this is Caitlin Rule, and this is case study for AEP 855, When Ethics and Policy Collide. So let's begin with summarizing the case. So what has happened and is happening? So what has happened is two students, a consistent troublemaker and a young scholar, were caught in possession of a prohibited weapon on school property, leading to the board's zero tolerance policy demanding both students to be expelled for no less than 45 days in the district's disciplinary alternative education program. So now the assistant principal, he did follow through with the policy for the troublemaker, but he did not for the scholar. This decision has been questioned by the director of secondary education, and the assistant principal must decide whether to follow through with his decision and receive an official reprimand or follow policy and expel the scholar. When and where did these certain events occur? Well, all of this happened at the Rocket Junior High. The exchange between the students of the prohibited weapon happened in the hallway on the way to the office, and the discussion with all that were involved happened in the assistant principal's office. Who all was involved? We have the assistant principal, two students, the school officer, and the director of secondary education. Who is concerned? Right now we have the scholar's parents are concerned and the assistant principal. So to report any legal or ethical issues, has anyone been harmed by the decision of another? Technically, yes. The scholar is harmed, his reputation is harmed by the troublemaker. Also, both students are harmed in this situation by the decision of the assistant principal involving the school officer, making it, kind of bringing it to light in a different way. Does the situation contravene an existing law? Yes, the students in possession of a prohibited weapon, which constituted as a felony offense. Was there a breach of contract? Kind of, yes. The assistant principal not following through with policy could kind of be detrimental on his contract. Were the actions discriminatory or constituted harassment? I didn't think so at this time. So to synthesize the whole situation in one sentence, I have two students were caught in possession of a prohibited weapon on school property, leading to a required policy of expulsion. However, the assistant principal deviated from the policy and is now facing possible reprimand. Let's synthesize the facts. All the people involved, we have the assistant principal, Richard Inman, the troublemaker, James, the scholar, David Ramos, David's mother, James's fifth period teacher, the school police officer, and the director of secondary education. Now, I didn't put James's mother because I didn't think that she was really involved. She kind of in the situation said, let him sit it out, let him get expelled. This has happened before. But David's mother showed up at the school really soon after finding out, so that's why I involved her in this situation. The places that this happened, it's at Rocket Junior High. We don't really know a lot about this junior high, but we do know that there is a south side of town where it kind of sounds like there's a little bit more rough students, a little bit harder to get them through school. The whole school holds about 900 students, and we do know that it is a middle school, and by the looks of it, we're thinking that it is a public school. To review and prioritize the information. Could the decision be damaging to the stakeholders? Yes, the decision will affect stakeholders as it is set as an example for the future teachers and students. The scholar will benefit as his poor decision will not prevent him from losing his scholarships. It will, however, affect the troubled student in a negative way, as he will have a felony on his record and will likely not finish high school in time with all of these kind of consistent things happening. What individuals have an important stake? Well, the scholar, David, who had no discipline violations on his record, will now have one. The troublemaker James, who had been charged with a felony, will now be on his record. and the assistant principal, Richard, having an official reprimand on his personal file if he doesn't relent. Have all relevant stakeholders been consulted? I have yes. I have the students, the parents, the school officer, the assistant principal, and the director of secondary education have all been consulted. One person that hasn't been consulted is maybe the principal. So since the assistant principal is making the decisions, maybe they would meet with the principal to see their thoughts in this situation. Can I learn more about the situation? Yes, I believe that we always could learn more. We could learn more about the school, we could learn more about the students, about what's happening, but I do believe that I have enough information to make a decision. So to identify our options and our consequences. Option 1 would be to take no action. So just don't do anything, don't file the papers on the scholar David, and just let James be expelled and not do anything else. The consequences that would happen would the assistant principal would receive an official reprimand, and he might have a reputation of no follow-through. Of if something happens to a student, he'd be known as, oh, he's not going to do anything about it. Option 2, to follow through with the policy and file papers on the scholar David. So the consequences in that situation would he would hurt David's future. James's future is already kind of has that reputation, but now he would put David in that situation as well. Option 3, ask to discharge papers on troublemaker James and not expel either student. So in this situation, he would make things right by if he is not going to expel one student, then he shouldn't expel the other student as well. So because they both were involved, they both need the same consequences. So if he is going to give another one a second chance, he should give them both a second chance. The consequences of this, however, he would receive an official reprimand, and he might have the reputation of no follow through. So if something happens, then they might think he won't do anything about it. So evaluating my options. So the option 1 of take no action, don't even file the papers on David. The pros would be he would help David's future. He'd be able to not have that on his record. However, cons would be he would have an official reprimand, the reputation of no follow through, maybe repercussions of punishing one kid but not the other kid. So have that kind of reputation of picking favorites. Option 2, follow through with policy and file papers on the scholar David. Pros would be he'd have no official reprimand and everyone would get treated equal, but the cons would be that he would hurt David's future. Option 3, ask to discharge papers on the troublemaker James and not expel either student. So the pros would be David's future and possibly James's future, possibly by setting a good example for James, letting him know that people are here for him, and also giving him a second chance as well, because he's already kind of built that reputation of getting a little bit better as the time's coming. Some cons, however, would be he would get an official reprimand and also maybe have that reputation of no follow through, of not doing anything about situations. So to choose my best option, this was a really hard decision. I had to kind of think about it for a while, but I think what I would do would be option 3. I would ask to discharge the papers on the troublemaker James and not expel either student. So if I'm going to take the official reprimand, I'm going to do it for both students. I'm not going to just do it for one. I think the pros, I'd be able to create a better relationship with James and hopefully give him that light that people can be on his side and things can go well if you're being honest with him stepping in and saying, I will take it, it was mine, even though they both were involved in that situation. Kind of shows that he is on his way up, but just might need a little bit of help. Maybe help making better choices. How can my decision be implemented with the greatest care and attention? I would be able to give both boys a second chance to make better choices, and next time I will be more aware of the situation before just jumping to conclusions and involving others, such as the school officer. Have all stakeholders been consulted? I could contact the county attorney and ask to drop all charges so no felonies will be on their record. And if that were the case, then maybe I would not have to file the papers on expulsion. Have I identified creative options? I believe I have. Okay, implementing my decision. What would I do? My path. I would first try and contact the county attorney. I would request that they don't file charges on either student. This could go either way. The county attorney could try and things could get dropped, or things couldn't. It really wouldn't be my decision in that situation, but I would be willing to try. Then I would contact the principal and the director of secondary education to let them know. I would let them know that I will not be writing up the scholar, and I would like to withdraw the charges to not be filed against James. I would explain that I believe this is an opportunity for the students to learn from their mistakes, and that this is possibly an opportunity to help James feel like he's being supported and as though someone is there helping him through the process. I would also take full responsibility for the mistakes that have been made, because if the kids would have felt safer at school, then they wouldn't feel the need to bring a weapon. I would contact the students and their parents about the situation and let them know the whole process that is happening. And then I would request that the students meet with counselor to have check-ins about how things are going and maybe different ways to approach these challenges other than bring a weapon to school. What may happen? There are a lot of different things that could happen in this situation. The county attorney may not be able to drop charges, and if the county attorney can't drop charges, I might not be able to pull the James, the troublemaker, from his expulsion. So, and maybe this could all happen and go well, but then the students continue to get into trouble, so that second chance would really kind of let them think that they can get away with things instead of giving them another chance to make the better decision. The official reprimand affects future jobs, so maybe in the future I want a new job, but they see that reprimand and they would hold that against me and I would not be able to move forward. Identify who needs to know. And I really do think that the Department of Secondary Education, since they've already reached out to me about about what's happening, I think it would be really important to let them know my decision of what I'm going to do. The principal, so if this is the assistant principal, they need to keep the principal in the loop. And of course the parents and the students about the situation happening. So can I deal with this on my own? No, I think other parties will need to be involved. If I keep it all to myself, then I think nothing really could move forward. And if my plan doesn't work, so again, this was a really hard decision, and so there would be many things that maybe wouldn't help it to go exactly as planned. So if the county attorney is unable to drop charges, I'll still proceed with my plan, attempting to get James out of expulsion to give them both a second chance, at least in school. If I'm unable to do that, I'll still probably not expel David, and I will be sure to meet with James, David, and their families to see if I can still set up a counselor time, if I can still help them for the next step, so that maybe in the future this kind of thing won't happen. Maybe David won't feel like he needs to go and find a weapon to stand up for himself being bullied, and maybe I can meet with James to let him know I'm here for him and I won't make that mistake of involving other parties and jumping to conclusion the very first time it's brought to my attention. And that's it. Thank you.